Yeah.
Uh, let's get into our reviews.
Yes. Let's get in our
I'm
review.
so put out that there won't even be a transition this time. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, Gran Turismo.
Yes. Trying
Daniel,
to,
tell the
yeah.
people about Gran Turismo.
Okay. Well, I'm going up here. I'm scrolling up on Discord because I'm trying to find where I wrote. Okay, here we go. All right, so Gran
Ninja,
Turismo.
I'm going to speak in defense of British cuisine here for a minute. A lot of British cuisine was influenced by food rationing during the Blitz.
Mhm.
And I actually was watching a Count Dankula video where he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry that that your food is so shite that you need spice to have any to appreciate the flavor. I like to actually taste my food."
Yeah. Hey, nothing wrong with fish and chips. Yeah.
Yep, mind you, there
Uh,
is a lot of horrific food, but there's horrific food everywhere if you go looking.
yeah, that's true. That is very
Uh,
true.
i- if you want to see what Italy gave us, look up Sardinian maggot cheese,
Mm,
which is a cheese that they literally let rot until it grows maggots. It's illegal because it's not safe, but people still make it.
oh wow, jeez. And beans on toast. Oh, I can't speak to that. That's an all English breakfast. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
But
leave
but
alone.
anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
anyway, so yeah, so Gran
Daniel, we will leave it up to you whether this goes into the final clip.
yeah.
Just to give you a chance to break cleanly from it. Gran Turismo. Daniel, tell the people about the movie.
Okay, yeah. So Gran Turismo is a sports movie that a lot of people seem to think is a video game movie. But it's a sports movie where video games play a role in it. So the basic story is this kid Jan who lives in Wales. He's a really good, really, or I should say, he's a great Gran Turismo player, and he's got the whole setup with the steering wheel and the pedals and all that stuff. And he really likes race car driving, and but he has a father who played by Digimon Hansu, who's going to show up again later on in the show.
Yeah, like seriously, this guy doesn't leave us alone lately. Like he was in Rebel Moon, he was in
Shazam.
Shazam. He was in no, he wasn't in Aquaman. He was in
Yeah.
Shazam.
Yeah.
It's just like he everywhere we look, there he is lately.
Yeah, I know. It's weird, yeah, but Digimon Hansu is his dad, and he used to play soccer or football, so he's really more involved with his brother's life because his brother's playing soccer.
Uh,
Um,
which is which is kind of funny that he's so gung ho on his kid's soccer career, considering that to get ahead a little bit, it feels like he logically should want neither of them to get into sports because he was a professional soccer player at one point, and now he's working down at the train yard because he didn't have a backup plan, and he like
right? Yeah.
it feels like he's inconsistent. Like, what does he like? Okay, well, yeah, it's like a Cain and Abel thing almost, where it's like, oh yeah, the son is doing
Yeah.
what I like, so he can do it, but oh, you're wasting your time playing video games, so you need to go back to school and come up with a backup plan.
Yeah, it's very odd. But yeah, so then we cut to Orlando Bloom's character, who he plays a marketing exec at Nissan, and he has this idea to start a racing team with Nissan where the driver is not a professional race car driver but a sim car driver. So somebody like Jan, a video gamer, so basically putting a gamer into a race car, which if that sounds like a really bad idea,
That's because it probably
it
is.
probably is. Yeah. And that's what everybody tells him. He's like, this is a really bad idea. But
Right. Yeah. Even the coach here, played by David Harbour, who apparently is big in Stranger Things, which I haven't
yeah,
really seen.
yeah.
He's like, The only reason he joins up is because he is sick of his current job.
Yeah, he's working as a mechanic for uh, a real prima donna race car driver, and Ninja says, "Man, Legolas fell into hard times when Elizabeth the first time."
Yeah, you know what I kept thinking? Like with
Yeah,
that hairstyle, I kept thinking he looked like a Wish.com Tom Hiddleston, which is not fair to Orlando Bloom because he's a fine actor himself, but just the
yeah,
mannerisms and the writing and the way he was even kind of shifty like Loki, just kept making me think of Hiddleston.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, but so then they decide they have a contest, and then Jan wins the contest, and then they start up this driving academy, and kind of like it was kind of like Top Gun for race car
Yeah,
drivers.
yeah. And
Uh,
like all yeah, you had these 10 sim car drivers, and it was just basically who could make it through to the end
right.
of this rigorous training program.
Yeah, and David Harbour's character is a real jerk to all of them because he's just like, yeah, you guys aren't race car drivers. You're not, none of you are going to make it. Um, but long story short, Jan ends up kind of impressing him, and then wins the final race to become part of this team, which he wins it by a tenth of a second. Um, and the guy that he barely beats is kind of the Iceman of the movie.
Right. And he's act and Orlando Bloom's character actually is trying to encourage the coach to let's just say that he won because he has more stage presence.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He's more charismatic and camera friendly than Jan, but Arbor's like, no, no, it's Jan.
Right. Like, well, what's a tenth of a second? A victory. That's what a tenth of a second is, more or less.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jan becomes part of the team, and then we have this whole montage where he's trying to get his license to be a professional race car driver.
Right. He has to get at least fourth in one race.
Fourth and one, yeah, and he gets close in the first race, but then
Or
the
was it
prima
third in one
donna
race?
is fourth. Yeah,
Fourth. Okay.
yeah, he had to finish at least fourth. And then but then the prima donna race car driver knocks him off the road, and then the the whole time he's trying to race, but then he keeps coming in like in 20th and 18th, and then sometimes he doesn't even finish, and but then he does eventually get to fourth place, um and then gets his license, and uh then there's the faithful race at the Nürburgring, which uh if you've ever watched Top Gear or the Grand Tour, they often talk about the Nürburgring. It's in Germany. It is a notoriously dangerous race car track.
Yeah, there's like this one section where it's very easy to fly off the track.
Yes, and I think that I don't know if this is true or not, but I remember Jeremy Clarkson saying that 200 people have died on this track. It's really it's very dangerous, and there was one Formula One driver named Nicky Lauda who was badly burned on in a crash on that track.
Oof.
Yeah, but yeah, so the car, but then so in this movie, there's the race in the Nurburgring, and Jan ends up crashing. His he it they describe it as kind of being like a freak accident where he's like his car's coming along, and then it's like pitches up, like it hits like some weird headwind, and it pitches up, and then it flies off into the grandstands.
Yep. And so then the rest of the movie is just kind of the typical sports movie thing where he has to get his confidence back and
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, and
ride to glory.
yeah, hey D Rhino.
So so a few things. And Daniel, I think this would be a good candidate for a YouTube short, so I'm gonna make a little symbol here.
Okay.
There are two types of movies that Sony makes. One are ordinary ass movies the the Equalizer 3, like we reviewed last week.
Mhm.
And then there's the second flavor. Hey, there's a spaceship crashed down at the park. Oh, let me call you on my Sony phone. Yeah, I was just playing some Gran Turismo on my PlayStation 5 or 4, whatever's current at the moment. Oh man, we need to get some footage here. Let me unplug my Sony camera from my Sony laptop so we can go down there and get some high resolution pictures of this alien spaceship that crashed at the park. The two animated Spider-Man movies fell into this. Amazing Spider-Man with what's his name definitely fell into this,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Gran Turismo falls into this.
Yeah.
Heck, freaking Hotel Transylvania falls into this.
Yeah.
It's just unnatural, and it always distracts the hell out of me. This movie made it worse because usually it's like all background elements. So it's like you
Yeah.
can ignore it if you okay, fine. This is an alternate universe where Sony is like has more than a fraction of a single percentage of the cell phone market.
Yeah.
Um, eh, but in this one, the coach had been listening to music to his tunes on his old Sony Walkman that he kept, and Jan, as a gift, gets him. I couldn't be sure if it was a Sony smartphone or if it was like a Sony iPod Shuffle or Sony iPod Touch knockoff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit like did you ever see Happy Gilmore?
Not recently, but
Well, I don't know if you remember, but like Subway like was everywhere in that movie.
I did not. It does remind me of the bit from Wayne's World where they just started like being blatant about their advertising of like was it Mountain Dew?
Pepsi,
Pepsi, that's it.
yeah, Doritos, and yeah,
All Frito Lay project or all Pepsi Frito Lay products.
yeah, and then the little new print, little yellow, different.
Yeah. Okay, so that was one of my first problems with this movie, but
Yeah,
this is exacerbated by the fact that it is ultimately a advertisement for the PlayStation game Gran Turismo in a way.
yeah,
Now, mind you, this is based on a real story, and they fudged some details, but
yeah,
from what I could tell, it was mostly faithful.
yeah, and the real Jan was actually his own stunt double. Like he was actually doing a lot of the driving.
Yep, which that's really neat that they were able to do that,
Yeah,
and I'm sure it was really cool for him to see his story being brought to a wider audience.
yeah, yeah,
The problem is that you would never guess that this movie was directed by the same guy who did District 9
yeah.
and Chappie, whose name is now
uh,
Blumkampf. No,
Neil Blomkamp. Neil Blomkamp.
yeah. And I gotta tell you, unfortunately, so they made a few visual decisions that kind of hobbled the movie.
Mhm.
So when they were racing, they kept using graphics from Gran Turismo to do things like show you where Jan was in the race and his position in the race.
Oh, I was wondering about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of worked. They had an early scene where he was driving home and trying to escape the police, where they were putting like in the game you can have like the prediction line that's oh this is the way you're supposed to tackle this turn.
Yeah.
It's like they kept having that show up. Like that was kind of cute for that one scene.
Yeah.
For that one scene,
For that one scene, yeah. But they kept using it. Yeah.
that was just getting irritating after a while.
Yeah.
And man, Dan, I don't know if you felt this way,
Yeah.
but this was honestly some of the most boring action, like most boring racing scenes I've ever seen committed to film.
Yeah, they were not very exciting. Yeah.
Like, and I'm not okay. I'm not necessarily a racing movie aficionado,
Yeah.
but like I'm thinking, and here's an embarrassing comparison for you. I remember the races in Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, being more kinetic than in this movie.
Yeah, they were. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. When Jan got into the wreck, I was kind of half expecting him to go, "I'm on fire! I'm on fire!"
Yeah. is so that's kind of a fail right there. Like after
Mhm.
after they got out of that Top Gun program, my attention just wandered on this movie.
Yeah. Well, and I hate this. I mean, it was very fairly predictable. I mean, I made a list. Like after I watched the movie, I made a list of like all of the sports movie tropes that are in this movie,
Right.
and I'll go through them right now. Like underdog, no one believes in. Parent who doesn't understand the protagonist's dream. Coach slash mentor with a troubled past and is a bit of a has been.
Hmm.
Um, there is a love interest.
We notice how we didn't bother bringing her up because she matters so little to the story.
Yes. uh, D-bag rivals. Catastrophe, which causes protagonist to lose confidence. Protagonist gets confidence back, and then big victory.
Yeah, it's extremely formulaic, and with a biopic like this, you're kind of a bit constrained by what actually happened,
Hmm.
but at the same time, you can do better than that. Like it,
Yeah.
I feel like if this had been directed a little differently, this could have been more satisfying. The Also the main actor, I decided to look up some professional reviews for this one.
Yeah.
One of them pointed out, yeah, his dad was right. It's not like he was going to racetracks on the weekend and learning anything about racing. It's like he thought he was going to become a racer just by uh, playing video games, which, barring this Black Swan event that actually happened to him, was an unrealistic dream where he was wasting his life.
Yeah.
But the way that they described his performance was that he was like a sullen teenager who you had to like spend effort getting him to tell you how his day was.
Yeah.
And like he was definitely very closed off in this movie the whole way through.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Yeah, the most interesting character in the movie is David Arbor's character. I mean,
Yeah, and even then, I felt like there was something off about his performance to me. Like
yeah.
I don't know what, but so I think overall, like me personally, I couldn't really recommend this too strongly.
Yeah, I can't either. Yeah, and unless you're a big race car fan and you're a fan of race car movies, I mean, you might get some enjoyment out of it, but overall, I mean, like we were saying, it's very formulaic. It's some of the performances are, eh. Um, yeah, it's and some of the
They're
visual choices were questionable.
questionable, distracting, and biggest sin of all, boring. So yeah, it's just kind of unfortunate all around.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. So that's that.
Well, from going, oh yeah, it's also I kept find myself thinking, no, please don't be a worse movie than Rebel Moon. I don't want you to be a worse movie than Rebel Moon. It's like technically speaking, it's not a worse movie than Rebel Moon insofar as it has a three-act structure that completes.
Yeah.
Rebel Moon was much more interesting to watch just for like how incompetent it was.